this edition of the Eric Miscoll Show. I am Eric Miscoll, and we are here today to get an update on the EMS industry in Mexico. As always, we have Phil Stoten down in Australia joining in as my co-host. Welcome, Phil. And any guests on this broadcast will be muted. If you have any questions for our guests, feel free to add them into the question tab at the bottom of the screen. And as always, this is being recorded and will be rebroadcast on EMS Now, probably the beginning of next week. So with that said, let me briefly introduce our guests. Joining us today, we have two new guests, actually, which should be good to get a different perspective. We have Hugo Yamada, who's a general manager of Season Group, the EMS company down with facilities in Mexico. And we have Juan Luis Tarin, who's the vice president and regional sales manager with SMarTsol, the rep group, major rep group operating in Mexico. So, gentlemen, thank you both for joining us today. Let me begin, Hugo, by asking you to introduce yourself and your organization for our audience, please.
Thank you, Eric. As you mentioned, Hugo Yamada, General Manager for Season Group Mexico. Season Group is a contract manufacturer with a global footprint. So we have presence in Asia, Europe, and in Mexico.
Very good. Thank you. And I think actually yours is the newest facility within the Season Group corporation as well. Is that correct?
Correct. Our site is about 7 years old, so we are the newest in the group, the newest site in the group. Very good.
Thank you. Juan, welcome. Thank you for stepping in. Juan is helping out today. Another guest we had, Ivan Romo, had an emergency and wasn't able to attend, so we appreciate Juan stepping in for him. Juan, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Hugo, for the invitation. Well, SMarTsol Technologies is a company dedicated to supply a technological solution for the electronics manufacturing in Mexico. The company was founded in 2012, so it's been 10 years now. I joined the company by 2015. It's been seven years for me, and it's been a very interesting journey, I would say. SMarTsol, of course, is supported by people which has more than 25 years in the industry in Mexico. Mm-hmm. So our focus is to provide the correct solution, knowing the necessities of the manufacturing floor mainly.
Okay. Good. Right. And if I remember correctly, your background personally was also within the industry, various supplier companies to electronics manufacturing.
Yeah, I started in electronics in 1996, so also quite a long time. And I've been able to participate in many areas like engineering and quality. And I'm playing the role of a supplier. So that, well, I had the opportunity to see many different processes, many different ways of do the things. So yeah, it's been very interesting.
Good. Well, thank you both. And again, thank you for taking the time to share with us today. I wanted to start with that before we get into the industry specific, more of a larger issue, and that's the try to get an update if we can on, there's been a big uptick about the pandemic and the COVID recurrence and the impact that's having on workforces around the world, here in the United States, Asia, in Europe. And I wanted to ask kind of just to get a sense of what impact, if any, is that having on your operations and what you're seeing in Mexico. And Hugo, what's happening with you in that regard?
Actually, there has been a drastic improvements in the last couple of months. We've been running as normal as pre-COVID, and obviously I have to emphasize the new normal, because there's still some precautions that we need to take, like wearing face masks, etc.
Mhm.
But in general, our operation is running normal. We have over about 99% vaccination rate within our population here at our site. So we feel that is a significant contributor to the fact that we have not a lot of cases, and the sporadic ones that we are getting, the recoveries of the team member is typically quite fast.
Okay.
So on that side, we've been doing well.
Good.
Are you guys wearing face masks, or what are the kind of in-house precautions that you take every day?
Face mask is a must. We still have partitions in our cafeteria, and also we have several open spaces where our team members collaborate. So we also have partitions there just to avoid the direct close contact between each of us. Obviously, just an ongoing campaign to remind everyone to wash their hands frequently and disinfect their desks and any personal equipment like keyboards or tools or things like that.
Very good. Juan, what are you seeing? Your business obviously isn't just one facility; it spans throughout Mexico. Are you hearing anything from your customers and their facilities in different parts?
Well, I think I mean regarding the COVID, I think we just has done the first steps in order to understand how to live with this virus. I think the impact right now is just minimum in terms of productivity for most of the companies. Of course, there is still some health cautions we need to take care. I mean, the mask, the uses of the mask here in SMarTsol also is a must. But I think it's now much better than the beginning, of course. And I don't think there is now a real impact, neither with us or with our customers or EMS companies.
Okay.
Is there a sense of concern for when we get into fall or autumn that as it gets colder, the number of cases start to rise? Obviously, down in Australia, we've just gone through the winter and we've had a bit of a spike of cases, and we're kind of heading into spring now. But I know in Europe they're concerned about the fall and whether that will cause a spike in cases.
Yeah, of course, when the wave comes, everybody worries. I think in Mexico, I don't know what you think, Hugo, but I think we had a delay of maybe 3 to 4 weeks when we see the wave, let's say in the US starts. After 3 weeks of that, we start having the wave here in Mexico. And I think the problem here is vacation season, when the people is, joined together for some kind of celebration or party, is where the infection starts. But I think it's much better right now than before.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. No, we're always curious about the impacts that are having on the industry. So let's talk about the industry in Mexico. I mean, you're both obviously involved with electronics manufacturing down there. I know that there's a variety of challenges and opportunities that come with that. But starting maybe big picture, Hugo, how would you kind of characterize the current state of the EMS industry within Mexico and the operations you're running?
Well, what we see is growth. We've been experiencing significant growth at our site, but we are seeing the same for some of our competitors. So I can say there is a strong growth. All of us are expanding our capacity. Main drivers are the reshoring that is happening, mainly because of tariffs on Asian products or Chinese products, I should say, and the instability of the logistics, which has improved significantly, but is not the problem hasn't really been resolved. It's still there.
Okay.
Are you seeing an easing in those supply chain issues? Is that allowing you to expand? Because that's been a bit of a choke on manufacturing outputs, hasn't it?
Yeah, we've addressed or tried to minimize really the impact. Number one, the situation is much better. I would say it has improved at least 50%. ICs continue to be an issue. So the other things that we've done regarding this issue is product redesign. Where basically, we have a strong function out of our the China team for design or value-added value engineering. And we are using those capabilities to help the customers to redesign so we can minimize the impacts. Recent example, our China team was able to help a customer design a multi-footprint product with the multiple AMLs that we can substitute. And it was just really a PCB change.
Yeah, those redesigns are important. Hey, Juan, all that news about expansion, that's good news for you guys.
Well, for us in particular, it's been a steady growth since 2012. In reality, we are opening new facilities in areas like Tijuana and the border, El Paso. Now we are planning to take a look on a new facility in Northeast. It would be Monterrey, of course. And regarding our customers, I would say there is a lot of activity right now happening. It's very interesting. Many companies are experienced or having plans to expand the production floor. So I think it's a good time for the electronics manufacturing in Mexico right now.
Yeah, I think sorry, Eric, I think it's really curious where the expansion's coming from. You've got US-owned operations, you've got European-owned operations, and more Asian-owned operations. Juan, where are you seeing most of the growth? Is it Asian companies coming in? Is it the traditional companies that have been in Mexico for some time?
I think it's a couple of interesting points regarding that question, Phil. First one is you are correct. Many companies are coming from Asia to start operations in Mexico. We have been seeing that since 2020. And many of those products are, let's say, consumer or retail products. And those are mostly established at the north part of the country right now. On the other hand, we could talk about automotive products. And regarding that sector, the interesting part is we have to divide that segment in two, which we call the traditional automotive devices and the electrical vehicles. Electrical vehicles is right now booming in Mexico. It's amazing to see how many operations has been started producing that kind of products since last year in reality.
Hugo, you do a lot of automotive up in your facility, do you not?
We do, but I agree with Juan Luis on his comments. There is growth in the automotive sector, but what we are seeing on the consumer side is much more significant. So I do agree with Juan.
Okay. And tell me, I've always been curious, and I get to, I guess, ask the question now because we have you on the show, Hugo, but you know, we think of Mexico, at least I do, in terms of kind of the border and the interior, right? And there's some differences there. And I'm wondering, you know, kind of if does one think of in terms of transportation, the infrastructure, the workforce, heck, even the safety issues, are they different on the border than they are in the more interior of the country, the Guadalajara, the Monterrey, the areas? How do you view that?
I think obviously each region has their own unique social issues. Historically, the border towns had an advantage because basically they are more experienced on servicing the needs of the U.S. customers. But I think the interior has matured significantly the last several years, and I would say is the same. Really, the advantages that you have on the border now are obviously the speed to market, because you are 5 minutes away from the US. Mm-hmm. And there are some operational advantages. For example, VAT is lower on the border. Fuel costs are lower. They're more subsidized by the government to compete with the US costs. So that's some of the advantages. But at a macro level, really the interior has matured significantly. And I think for any customer in the US or any other part of the world, it's really easy to do business in any of the areas. It's just if they want somebody that can supply relatively fast.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Juan Luis, when you look at the companies that are buying CapEx from you and the companies that are growing fast, are you noticing any geographic differences between border towns, between the interior, you know, specifically Guadalajara, for example?
Not really, Phil. At this moment specifically, maybe coming from the end of 2020, we could see a faster recovery on the activity by the north of the country. I mean, the border companies. We have like a difference, let's say, within 6 months to start seeing it happening here by the center of the country. But right now, I think it's pretty much level. I think it's
pretty even everywhere.
Pretty much the same.
Yeah. What I think is curious when I look at the industry in Mexico is we have all these Asian players now, but we also have lots of European players, lots of American players. We haven't seen huge domestic brands come through, and the industry has been in Mexico for, I don't know, 25 years now. Do you see any change in that? Do you see any Mexican-owned EMS brands starting to become significant?
Not from my side, Phil. Mexican-owned or Mexican capital EMS with significant capabilities to be considered a global player. I'm not aware of any.
No, me either. What about you, Juan Luis?
We have some examples, and it's interesting, Phil, around Mexico City. Let's say Mexico State is actually the name of the state. We can find several Mexican companies producing not only their own devices, but devices for someone else.
Okay.
It's been growing, let's say, steady. It's not booming, to be I mean, certain with that part. But yes, there is some movement in that particular area for Mexican EMS companies.
Do you think the fact that that's been slow is down to a lack of available capital, or what do you think is the cause? Because there's certainly the talent there, isn't there?
Mhm.
Yeah, of course, the talent is here. I think resources could be an issue. I mean, we are also facing lack of component era, and of course, if the big companies are having issues, I don't want to think the small guys how they handle this part. I think as soon as they start trying to do their own, we start facing new challenges in the world, like logistics, lack of components. I mean, all the political situation around the world, and I think that is more the stopper than the impetus to target the goal.
Okay. You mentioned the talent issue, and Phil and I just recently did a show talking about HR issues and labor challenges in the EMS and across the globe. How is it, Mexico is, as Phil was just indicating, has always been known for having very good talent in electronics manufacturing, great university programs, putting out some very good engineers, and have for decades. How is that continuing? And obviously COVID had an impact on labor as well over the last few years, but generally speaking, how's the talent level within Mexico? Is it, is it continue as we know it, or are there some challenges there? Hugo, maybe ask you first.
I think the talent is there. What we at least our experience is you can find the talent, but there are certain skills that are not necessarily taught at the university, or certain knowledge particular to our industry. So with the growth, obviously there's more demand for this skilled labor, and there's competition for the small pool of talented and experienced resources available in the local market. So what we've decided is we are investing in our people to develop them and give them the skills that or the knowledge that they didn't necessarily got at their university.
Okay. And Juan Luis, what are you seeing from, you see kind of a wider growth in that sense? How do you see that?
Yeah, I'm agree with we had many universities that can provide human resources. Things organizations need to understand is how to adapt. Of course, with the COVID, we find new ways to work remotely. We are but of course, new generations thinks differently and demand different things. I think it's that we need to understand how to adapt to the new generation in order to bring all people to work.
Yeah, I think that's consistent with what we discussed on a global basis in the recent HR thing, that brands need to think a little bit differently about their recruitment and about their staff retention. And as Hugo said, internal training and internal development is part of that. But being a brand that people want to come and work for is part of it. And if you look at a town like Guadalajara that has, I don't know, 100,000 plus people working in electronic manufacturing, you know, you want to be the company that they want to come and work with, and that might be because the training's exceptional, or because the community is exceptional, or because the brand reflects their own personal ideals. So I think the industry is definitely changing on that basis. And, you know, Hugo, you'd be able to talk to this. You're in a market where there are lots of other companies chasing the same stuff you're chasing.
Correct. And yeah, we try to, besides having a competitive package, we also like to grow our own people. So that opens up opportunities for growth in our lower ranks of our organization. So that is an attractive point when our team members know that there are growth opportunities for them. Also, our culture and environment. We try to give a pleasant work environment, and also we have our core values that our culture is based on, and we follow them to provide that environment.
Yeah, I think there's a real strong sense of community within the season group, but within other global groups, and the fact that you're global is potentially also an attraction to people.
Yeah. Hey, you know, I wanted to follow up on a theme you both spoke to, which is the reshoring, the business that's coming in, and not about where it's coming from so much, but how they're choosing to engage. Because when I think of Mexico, I've always thought that, you know, there's three ways people effectively engage there. They come to work for give their work to a contract manufacturer like Seasoned Group and have them do it. They may have their own wholly owned foreign subsidiary that they do, or they engage through one of the shelter programs, you know, that do all of those. How do you see what is popular these days with the reshoring? Where is it coming to? Is it coming more to the global brands, the big EMS companies, or are they still kind of the other areas also still attractive?
On our side, we've been successful on capturing new business of US-based companies that are looking to avoid the tariff situation or the logistics problems that they're currently having. But the bulk of it, in our case, really is coming from existing customers that are currently being served by our Asian-based factories. And what we or Seasoned Group as a company is doing is offering solutions to them, taking advantage of the global footprint to give them solutions to their tariff and logistics issues that they are facing. So what we're doing is we are transferring important customers from China to Mexico in support of that.
Yeah, and is that companies that were currently perhaps building all their production with you in China and are now saying we need a China plus one strategy, or companies that are maybe decoupling a little bit from China and saying, hey, we love working with the Seasoned Group, but we want to share the risk, so can we have some of it manufactured elsewhere? Is it that kind of, is that the impression you have of those customers?
There's two scenarios that we faced. On one side, we have customers that are requesting it because they have their own reshoring strategy to mitigate the supply chain risks. And other customers, we have gone forward and proposed to them the solution because we consider them very important customers to us and strategic, and part of the value that we like to bring to the table is give them solutions, not only the product, but also service, logistics, tariffs, all of that.
Yeah, well, it's great that they can do that within the same organization and they haven't got to kind of go and start from scratch. That makes a big difference.
Yeah, that's a huge advantage because for the customer it's completely transparent. You know, obviously there's approval process, etc., but the bulk of it is transparent.
Yeah. Juan Luis, how do you see it? Do you see most coming to the contract manufacturers? Do you still see a lot going to shelters or maybe starting their own factories?
No, I'm pretty much agree with Hugo. I think the success right now is for the companies who can handle in the most effective way the current challenges, which are logistics and supply chain mainly. I don't think it depends on the specific region in Mexico or any type of company or nationality. I think it's more of how fast the companies can react to the demand that customers are having right now. For instance, again, for electrical vehicle market, you can see different companies doing the same device in different regions in the country. The logic behind of that is how fast they can bring materials, set up the line, and start production. I think that is the key companies need to be aware of right now.
Yes, that speed, and that EV market's moving really quickly. Just in the EV market, guys, are you seeing a different engagement? Are you seeing more direct engagement from the car makers to the EMS companies rather than going through the tier one channels?
What we could see, Phil, right now is there is two main companies producing a lot of devices in Mexico. Both companies are American companies, and they are doing very serious growth. Okay.
Yeah, high volumes.
Okay. Excuse me. You know, I have an old colleague who used to say, and he helped start some EMS from the United States, start facilities in Mexico. And he said one of the mistakes that a lot of those companies used to make is they thought a Mexico operation would just be a simple extension of their footprint in the United States. And he says, and that always caused problems, right? That was wrong. You have to have your own strategy for that facility in Mexico and really be kind of specific to that. So I guess my question is what mistakes do you see people who come to Mexico with their manufacturing? Are there some common mistakes that you see people making in the way they engage or how they go about doing their business when they come there? What do you think, Hugo?
Well, a common mistake that I've seen, or at least in my opinion, is as you mentioned, assuming that you can have an extension of your factory. So historically, or at least in the past, you see, or it was common to see a lot of these companies running processes like supply chain, accounts payable, etc., out of the US. There has been a significant change in the last years where the local factories have been able to obtain those capabilities, and at the end of the day, it's just to be able to run the business more effectively.
Yeah, I just think it's important when and it's not unique to Mexico, but wherever you are, you've just got to kind of put yourself in the environment you're in, and hire senior local staff and really understand the local geography. The most successful foreign companies in Mexico are the ones that look the most Mexican when you go visit, I think.
That's good. Juan Luis, how do you see it? What do you see some common issues there?
I think the customers already understand the manufacturing capabilities of the companies in Mexico. I think it's pretty much mature in that way. But of course, it's still a big country, I would say, and the different regions in Mexico has different culture as well. And that could be a mistake when you have certain kind of products to be produced in certain way to select the correct area. I don't want to say nothing in particular. I think in general terms, Mexican is a very competitive market in terms of manufacturing. But of course, you need to still understand that there could be difference between the areas. I would say logistics is a tricky part. Sometimes being, let's say, a little bit far from the border doesn't mean the logistic is gonna work bad. Sometimes could be sooner. We had the example of Querétaro in Mexico. Is pretty much central city in the country, which has a very good infrastructure in terms of logistic, and they can transport big stuff like vehicles very fast to the US by train. And not all parts of the country can do that. So I think understand Mexico as a different regions inside is a good point to have in mind. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Remember, it's a big country.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Juan Luis, sorry, go ahead, Eric.
No, go ahead, Phil.
No, I was just going to ask Juan Luis, when you look at the investment that people are making in CapEx at the moment, is it mainly growth driven, or is there still that strong desire to digitally transform? Is there still a push to more automation, Industry 4.0 kind of investments going on?
Yeah, of course, Phil. It's a topic we have been handling in the table from a couple of years now. Companies are getting more and more serious. There is very interesting projects already set it up and running with important customers where the level of automation is, amazing. And I think it's part of the future that we have in this area of manufacturing. How to get in that? How can we bring the people, not the new generation in this case, but the let's say the old people to get in? Used to the new way of work.
Yeah, that digital transformation. What I've always thought was, and since I'd spent a lot of time there, what I thought was fascinating about Mexico is it has the advantage of the lower cost wage environment, but it also has very advanced technology in terms of digital transformation, in terms of advanced automation. And I think that bodes very, very well for the long-term future of the region as a manufacturer.
And I think local manufacturers understand very well there is no more cheap labor cost, is efficiency and margin, and that could be achieved only with automation. So I think everybody's on board now on that topic.
Yeah, they're on the right page, and it's certainly trending in the right direction, isn't it?
Listen, I know that we, in respect of our time here, I need to be wrapping this. So I maybe ask a question. For companies, we're talking about the influx of business into Mexico and what's the new that's coming and what's growing and the opportunities down there. So what advice would you offer to companies who are looking, maybe they're not there, they're looking to establish their business, or maybe even they've started and they're looking to grow their business? What advice would you offer to them as far as, the best practices maybe they should be aware of or adopt in doing that? Hugo, what do you think?
Two advices that I will give is number one, identify which geographical regions are attractive to you, and contact the state government. Typically, they do have teams that are focused on bringing in foreign investments, for example, our state, we are in the state of Tamaulipas, and there's a group called Invest in Tamaulipas, which is part of the state government, and basically they so support foreign companies in setting up in the state and supporting in any permits and different legal aspects that are required. The other one, which is also important in my opinion, is work with the Maquiladora Association. This is a national association and it has chapters throughout all the major industrial cities in Mexico. So they are a huge help. They have excellent support. They know all the ins and outs and the right people to talk to, and they are pro Maquiladora. So they will always be looking out for your interests.
That's excellent. Thank you. Juan Luis, what would you offer up?
Yeah, pretty much agree with you. Understand how different regions in Mexico works and what they had to offer for a specific company or product or necessity. Of course, every state has their own policy for business locally. It's good to get close to the different chambers to understand how different areas works. And of course, we are open always to help new companies that would like to do business in Mexico. So according to our experience, so they can understand based on their requirement, which companies could do better here in Mexico. Okay.
Yeah, which are going to fit them. Yeah, and I would just add, get down there, go down and spend some time there, get down to one of the various SMTA shows down in Mexico, meet as many people as you can. And lastly, call either of these two guys, Hugo or Juan Luis or any of their team, because, they're in the thick of it. They know exactly what's going on.
Yeah. You stole my thunder, Phil. That's how I was going to end. Look at him.
I thought everybody was going to say, my piece of advice is call me. We'll fix you up.
Yeah, but I would also say, I have colleagues up here who work for OEMs who, because of COVID, haven't gone to their facilities in Mexico for several years. And it's been interesting to see they don't feel the need to do so as strongly as they used to, right? And I think that the COVID, if there was a silver lining in some ways, it was that they'd really developed further trust and respect for the people who were doing their manufacturing down in Mexico.
Yeah.
So I think
it speaks well to that, doesn't it? It speaks well to that level of trust and that level of autonomy and how grown up and reliable and the Mexican industry is now.
No, world class, as we say. So
Hugo
and Juan Luis, thank you both very much for joining us today, for sharing your thoughts and your opinions. I know our audience appreciates it, and hopefully we have an opportunity to speak again in the future. So thank you both very much.
Muchas gracias.